It's the other way around, isn't it?
No, not safe
Not
work.
safe work for. That's basically what it stands for.
Not safe
Is that
work
what you're
for.
saying?
No.
Maybe he's just illiterate.
I literally basically went full unable to read and didn't read it properly.
It's okay, we've all been there. Yeah, he said I was going to be excited for his decks, and the last person that used to say stuff like this before weeks was Hello Leroy. Hello Leroy in Season 1 and 2 was really excited. Like, oh yeah, you're going to love the decks that I've brought. And apparently this is what I'm going to be feeling about Dan's decks. But we'll see. We'll see if I get excited about his decks.
Can you stop saying decks and then some sort of adjective?
Why?
To this? I don't know. I just can't listen to it.
I like decks.
I like 30 packs of cards as well.
Yes. There are 30 packs of cards.
30 cards in a deck.
Oh, you said it. Oh. Trigger word. So, Priest versus Priest then.
I definitely dragged the broadcast down to new lows here.
Dragon Priest from Dan. He did bring Dragon Priest last week as well. Dan's lineup last week, he kind of watched DreamHack unfold.
Yeah.
He saw what the winner brought, and he went, you know what, I'm going to bring the same decks that guy's just brought. And it worked out for him last week.
Dragon Priest has definitely had success in tournaments. I think Dog said it was his best performing deck in the... in
the Swiss.
Swiss, yes. Yeah. So he was obviously having great success with that. Mysterious has got an okay start here, though. He has got the Power Word Shield, he's got the Silence. Just needs to bring something from his deck that he can use those silences on. Whereas Dan has now got options here. He could coin Power Word Shield, he could coin Elemental, probably the only two. I think if you were going to coin anything, you'd coin Power Word Shield, just deny potential draw, but doesn't seem totally worth it, and is now going to give Dan, or Mysterious, the option to use the Power Word Shield. The only way you get punished, I think, in this situation is if Mysterious had Inner Fire, which he just draws off the top.
But do you do it? I don't think you do.
No.
Only because of Shadow Word Death.
Absolutely, but then you get punished by Shadow Word Pain here. But then are you that bothered about losing a...
I guess either way it feels... Either way you lose something. Do you lose a minion, or do you lose the value of Inner Fire later on as a possible win condition?
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the thought process for Mysterious there.
Well, not a bad draw to soothe the wounds for Mysterious. Off the top, he gets the Humongous Razor Leaf. Not easily dealt with by a spell here for Dan. And he does have the Silence and Inner Fire in hand, by the way, so that could become an 8-8 next turn, should he so choose.
So Mysterious needs to decide whether he wants to go down that route and say, I just need to make an 8-8 now, I need to have a board presence, start trading, and not allow Dan to run away with it like the Dragon Priest can so famously do. Or does he wait? Does he play the patient game, waits until he has the full combo, the full whack, to be able to stick it all on a minion and just go for the one-turn kill?
Mysterious has got a great set of options here, by the way. He could face the Shambler and Silence to give him 2 4/8s on board that could both be attacking. Or he could use Potion of Madness, Inner Fire, Silence, and sort of do the whole combo there. But he's going to take the play where he uses the Faceless Shambler. I think this is the better of the two plays. The other one seemed a little bit too complex for something that didn't really get you much in return. But it's a very strong board on turn 4 for Mysterious here. Kind of like the Silence Priest's dream, really.
I wonder what Silence Priest would dream about.
Probably this.
Yeah?
Or maybe like
Razor Leafs.
Maybe like Lyra into double Elemental into like continuous Inner Fires and Divine Spirits from the Lyra.
Oh yeah.
That sounds like a great dream.
Perfect. So Dan now is behind on board. And really nothing answers it effectively, in my opinion. It looks like he has to drop the Priest and... oh, the Priest. Priest of the Feast. And okay, there's the Divine Spirit and Inner Fire. So that's a possible 16-16 on board if you want it.
I mean, what you could do is get rid of this Elemental by trading the 4/5 in using Potion of Madness, then trading that into the Priest of the Feast. And yeah, you could, exactly, you could have a 16-16 on board. Could you go for Shadow Visions?
And what? If you picked up a... You could maybe pick up a...
Because then you could play a kind of longer game and then try and go for a 32-32 next turn.
Yeah. If you found another Divine Spirit, then maybe that's the play. You go for Shadow Visions now and you see what you get, and then you go down your route using the Potion of Madness and trading. Mysterious actually going to use the 4/8 rather than the 4/5. Why do you think that is?
Because he's... I guess this way, if you get another Divine Spirit.
I guess maybe he's playing around Dragonfire Potion then? So he's going to be able to... He can heal up the 4/5, and then he has a 4/7 and a 4/6 on the board.
If you got another Divine Spirit there, could you have got... You could have had very nearly lethal. You'd have been one off lethal if you had another Divine Spirit from those Shadow Visions.
Still a 4-4. I suppose either way it didn't really matter. One of the minions stays alive. Those are the options then from the Operative, and a Silence can make this Shambler a measly little 1-1.
Feels bad, man.
That ruins the plan of any Divine Spirits coming through just yet.
At least nothing that can search for lethal immediately anyway. What are you doing here now as Mysterious? What are you searching for? You could Divine Shadow Visions and look for some sort of card draw. You can continue going down that play of the Divine Spirit. I think he had the option of Divine Spirit there, but now has Purify. But obviously with the Ancient Watcher in hand, Purify does get some value. Whether he wants to play the Ancient Watcher this turn, however, remains to be seen.
Yeah. He is going to opt to make one of these minions make the Razor Leaf a bit big now, because certainly Dragonfire Potion is a possibility that could come in later on. And Mysterious just needs to keep something alive on the board, because as soon as this board is cleared and the Dragon Priest is allowed to gain a little bit of momentum, they can just trade effectively. You never are able to get anything to stick, and you can't even use the Inner Fire Divine combo anyway.
As Dan, do you trade this 5-6 into the 4-12 regardless, because one Inner Fire would be lethal for you if you don't taunt up? That's the question. Because you could be tempted to play Bookworm or Defender of Argus. My thoughts would be maybe trading Defender of Argus heal, because I think the only other option is you definitely trade this 5-6 in. Yeah, you definitely trade this 5-6 in because you know that Inner Fire would be lethal for you.
A Divine Spirit and Inner Fire would be lethal.
Yeah, sorry, Divine Spirit and Inner Fire would be lethal. Yeah. I meant that.
But that's exactly why he's done it, and a good decision as well. Of course, there isn't another Divine Spirit in Mysterious's hand, but you know there's always options to search for it. A Purify could be used to search for it if he were in that position, but then you just completely take away the health and just make it back down to a 4-8.
Okay, Mysterious ignores. And now there is a Dragonfire Potion there with 2 dragons on board. He also has the option of Defender of Argus and Cabal Talon Priest. Was that a mistake from Mysterious to ignore the 5-2 on board here, Dan?
I think the 5-2 is probably going to trade in anyway. Yeah, I would have thought that. Well, I mean, I suppose you could. Yeah, I think Dan will have to trade in the Operative anyway, plus Dragonfire Potion if he's going to go down that route and just clear the board. I don't think he will. I think it may be a slightly overkill for him at this moment.
But you could play the Cabal Talon Priest in your 5-2 and then use Defender of Argus, and then you are punished for not trading into the 5-2.
Certainly down that route, yep. But I guess at what point can Mysterious start trading? Like, he needs at some point to start going face and try and keep minions alive. If he just starts playing the trade game, he's just going to lose on value to the Dragon Priest.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think Mysterious was definitely looking for a win condition along the lines of trying to get that big Divine Spirit in a fire turn. But now he's well and truly behind on board at this point in time. And I don't know if he runs any ways of getting back into it. I think Holy Nova would be the only thing that you did run, but do you fit Holy Nova into this deck?
I don't think so. Any teching could happen.
Well,
People
actually,
have probably done it, but...
Does that trade make you think he does, potentially?
No, I think he's just looking for... He was maybe looking for another Divine Spirit.
Or Potion of Madness, because Potion of Madness would definitely trade in one of his 2-3 into that 4-2 there by that trade.
Yeah. If he found another Divine Spirit, he could have then played the Divine Spirit into Faceless Shambler. And just tried to have somewhat of a board presence. But as I said, like, nothing's going to stick now for Mysterious. It's pretty awkward. Dan has a lot of options. Already has control of the board. Still has Lyra in hand for crazy Lyra things to happen.
He's got the Primordial Drake as well for some more board clear.
So do you Inner Fire to clear the Talon Priest here?
Yeah, I think you do.
You have to. Okay, so he's dealt with the board. He's got something to stick, but it's going to be removed immediately. This is my problem. He's answering the immediate threat of what Dan is posing. However, it just gets completely obliterated in an instant.
Do you even need to play Primordial Drake here? You could just play Netherspite Historian, see what you draw, and then maybe even follow it with the Lyra.
Yeah, I think that's fine. You might find a useful dragon that you can play. If you don't, if you find something big, if you only get a choice of like, oh, Deathwing, and well, there's 3 big things.
3 big things.
Exactly what I was suggesting. Then yes, Lyra might have to come down just to give you some board pressure.
I think you'd be searching for a valuable 4/5 drop. Draconid Operative would have been ideal, but Lyra will have to come off the back now.
Well, you could always play a 1/1 and then turn into a 1/3 for 5 mana. That seems good. You might have to Power Word Shield the Netherspite Historian here.
Yeah, that could definitely be a thing. But then are you ruining one of your chances to get a really big Inner Fire Divine Spirit combo off it? I think this is a really tough turn. I think you're right. Maybe he just has to search for something. I
think at this point you're just trying not to die and trying to draw cards and just staying alive for as long as possible and saying, well, you never know.
Oh, here we go. Lyra is about to start generating things. There is the Inner Fire. That's a 7/7 Lyra. Let's see what comes off the top.
Now, it's the perfect draw for Dan, of course. It allows him just to generate a couple more spells. Unfortunately, it will just stop there and then. He's not going to Dragonfire Potion, but enough just to continue this threatening board and make Mysterious try and answer it, but there is no answer from Mysterious. And probably bottom right now, buddy.
Is the play concede here, Dan?
I think it is. But this is a potential... Well, this is getting to the finals of the Premiership. You're not going to concede.
No.
I think you wait until you are literally dead on board or until your opponent physically puts that damage to your face. You play for every possible out.
Shadow Madness is a pretty good draw here as well because it means he can use some of the potential draws for Mysterious for his own devices here. Wonder what 3 drops or lower than 3 health minions would actually be. That's a good one. If he plays that on board and then just Divine Spirits it in hoping to set up later for a Inner Fire, that could just get used as Shadow Madness. And I think...
So I think the only option here is you Talent Priest, you Divine Spirit, you Inner Fire, then you Faceless Shambler. And, and you just say, okay, I'm going to put all of my cards on the table, quite literally, and see what happens.
Yeah, what you got.
Or not. You keep searching. He says, actually, I want to try and actually win this game. That's a potential chance to win the game, if it could stick. Unfortunately, I'm struggling to see how it will.
So, Shadow Madness not quite lethal. Currently about 3 off, so he's 3 off lethal at this point in time with Shadow Madness.
So do you use Shadow Madness to search for the lethal with Lyra? Or is that just overkill?
If you got another Inner Fire from Lyra from Shadow Madness, you get lethal, right?
Even Holy Fire.
Yeah, Holy Fire. Anything, actually. It's got a lot of options.
I don't know about anything. Well, that's a bold statement.
A bold statement, but not quite anything.
Yeah, just trade off. And actually playing around a Potion of Madness as well. Killing off his 1 mana minion. 1 mana, 1 health. Nope, 1 attack. There we go. Got there
in the end. Don't think there's any way that any fancy Wild Pyromancer turns can save Mysterious here. This could be the turn where he slams and goes for a massive 16-16 and then Faceless Shamblers it and then hopes to hell that there is no way that he has a Shadow of Death to contend with. This is the only way I think Mysterious finds his way back in.
But I mean, okay, so it's really, he only has to deal with 1 16-16.
Yeah.
Because that one's just not doing anything. If it gets silenced, it just loses all of its value.
It's very true, he didn't silence it, so.
And Dragonfire Potion can just deal with it. Like with trading in with the minion, and then you're like, well, okay, yeah, you've got a 16-16 on the board that's doing nothing. Big whoop. Whoop-de-doo Basil, all that.
Basil.
You know what that's from? Whoop-de-doo Basil.
No.
Oh, it's from Austin Powers.
I haven't seen Austin Powers in years.
I wonder. It's a good film.
Which one are you talking about? How many were there? 3?
I think it might be from The Spy Who Something Me.
Ah, yes. The one where machine guns came out.
Of something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the one.
Good film.
That's a good film.
So Dan is just going to actually search by healing up with the Cleric here. Are you forced to trade into the 16-16?
I think I watched that scene when I was about 14 years old, you know.
Yeah, I bet you did. Over and over.
Oh. I can just imagine Will's face right now. Why are you dragging the Premiership down to these legs? I don't know if you are for. I think you probably just take it off board because you're not worried about the other 16-16.
There's a mind control there.
Oh, goodness me.
I mean, it's not going to come in handy, really.
I mean, do you just not trade at this point?
Oh, okay.
Because you've got the mind control. Do you just not trade?
I guess you don't need to waste your whole board, do you? You know you've got a taunt in. You know he's got no way of dealing with that taunt because it's a 4-attack minion.
And also, what a way to rub it in. You know, mind control the enemy minion from Lyra to win the game.
If Mysterious had, for example, maybe silence another Divine Spirit, another Inner Fire, I don't think he could because of what cards he's already drawn, and Dan is probably tracking that.
Well met. Mind control deck. Or mind control even.
Mind control tech.
That would have been even better. But the 1 in 4 chance to win the game. How many ways you got to do this in style? I think actually mind control is the only lethal that you've got, and he is going to take it and gets another Dragonfire potion for his toils, but that'll be it, and Dan will take the first game in this series. Yeah,
Mysterious never really able to beef any minion up to a substantial amount, and Dan is just going to rub salt in the wounds. And just... Oh yeah, of course it's not lethal because the Faceless Shambler doesn't attack.
Yeah, it's not like every potion. We're so used to seeing these. We're so used to seeing these priest take control mechanics. We haven't seen mind control used in years, right? Sapcasters. It was
not very well, all right.
It was prospective lethal, mate.
Although you said it was lethal.
Yeah, exactly. We both got it wrong.
Oh, I got it wrong.
We're so used to seeing like Potion of Madness and sometimes Shadow Madness and that kind of thing where you can have the effect on the turn. But I think mind control was eventually lethal. So yeah, you just trade into the Wild Pyromancer. So there's no way you have like endless Power Word Shield, Shadow Visions, Madness that can take place. And yeah, I just knew that he'd sewn it up and got lethal for the next turn. Even though we forgot the mind control tech doesn't allow the minion to track at the same time.
No one actually noticed, so it's okay.
I think
you did notice, go home.
Yeah, you shouldn't be. If you came here for serious Hearthstone casting, you're in the wrong stream.
Well, yeah, okay. So the priest is gone, or is won, should I say. And Dan is 1-0 up now, 2 games away from the finals at Comic-Con. Do nerves ever start to play a part for Dan? Because he is a relatively young player, quite new as well. Will he start to get the heebie-jeebies, the jitters a little bit if he gets close?
Heebie-jeebies. Thanks, Mum.
God, we're having a full meme fest tonight, boys.
No, I mean, Dan's played at international events, right? He's played at big events. I think he's been to DreamHacks and so on and so forth. So a while he'll have the nerves. I think he'll be sort of hoping that he'll sort of make it. Definitely will be calm, I think.
Okay, well, I was genuinely wondering. So, thanks.
No worries, bud.
Wisps, 0-mana 1/1s. They're good cards, apparently.
Well, that was the original inclusion in this deck, right? Where Dog was playing it when it first came out in the start of Angoro, and he had Wisps in there. He had a lot of sort of low mana cost cards, and Wisp was actually being used in the competitive deck. Doesn't actually get included in a lot of Rogue Quest decks these days. I think you showed me today the Oskaka perfected version of the Quest Rogue deck.
Or what they say is the perfected version, at least.
Yeah.
I think it's down to personal preference and how you like to play. Mysterious actually going to go for a big old crawler here. And I was going to say, there are pirates as a possibility in the deck, but he's just saying, no, I need to start putting threats on the board now. I mean, famously, I say famously, the aggro druid does just beat Quest Rogue hands down.
Yeah, I mean,
it is when the whole rock paper scissors cool, we're being really hipster by saying there are 3 decks that are good came out. I mean, this was what beat what? It was the rock and the paper or whatever.
Anything aggro, like Pirate Warrior and sort of aggro druid, anything like that will do well against Quest Rogue because they don't contest the board. They have minions that are really bad for their mana value usually, like Stone Tusk Boar and stuff. So they don't contest board early. Look at this, a 6/7 on turn 2 for Mysterious. That's the way that you use Innovate in the aggro druid. And it depends on whether Dan is running a Sap variant, a Vanish variant.
Oh, Vanish is a high possibility.
I mean, I played against a couple of, you've seen it on ladder. We've seen a couple of decks on ladder running Sap variants of the Quest Rogue to get rid of taunts and so on and so forth. But some of them are running Vanish. Remember, Prep Vanish could be a thing that Mysterious might have to watch out for. That could actually kind of help Dan weather the storm, per se. But Dan doesn't really have any great response other than just going wide on board here. And the problem is he doesn't have any bounce back mechanics. So there's no way at the moment that he's going to get close to completing that quest because, he wants to hold on to some of these minions realistically to actually complete his quest because he needs to sort of keep them back in some way, shape or form, but you can see here he's going to play the Druid at his own game and go as wide as possible.
And Mysterious will be laughing, saying, well, I can go wide too. And I've got a swipe in my deck as well that can help deal with some of these 1 health minions. Dan not in the best of positions. As you said, a Vanish later on might help. I mean, he'd probably have to draw a prep into Vanish for it to be really successful. Because he may just have to trade all he's got into this 6-7 now. And it's a 6-7 that is quite possibly going to turn into a 7-8 right now, depending on the line of play from Mysterious.
Mysterious could play Flame Elemental and Argent Squire. Maybe he's hoping to use that Bloodsail Corsair to kind of put that dagger down and force a re-dagger from Dan at some point in time. He also has the patches, remember, that you can use for a bit of surprise. The bonus for playing Bloodsail Corsair here was you can deal with that 2-1 with the patches. That will just potentially trade in to that 2-1, make it a little bit more difficult for Dan to find a good trade onto this 6-7. And now keeps the board equally as wide, but obviously Mysterious still has that big, beefy Galactic Crawler on board.
So there is an option. Dan could play both of these charge minions to deal with the oversized Crawler on board right now, but you've used all of your resources just to clear this 1 minion that was played on turn 1.
Yeah.
And then Mysterious has a follow-up of the double Power of the Wild if he wants to get some 3/4s.
The issue is as well, if you see the Youthful Brewmaster in hand for Dan right now, he's probably thinking, if I use this Youthful Brewmaster and I end up trading my Southsea deckhand or whatever, I then have lost 2 of my minions and I've only got to 3 and there's no way that I can ever get that minion to 4. So you have to now balance between surviving the storm of this aggro druid or actually getting towards completing your quest, where you're going to have to use these balance back mechanics often inefficiently because you can never trade with those minions either, especially if you're using your charge minions to try and finish your quest off with.
So, I mean, I'm looking at Mysterious's decks, and, I mean, they're all going to do pretty well against this quest rogue.
Yeah.
So what was banned from Mysterious this time?
He banned
actually write that down annoyingly.
Warrior, did he?
I don't know if the Warrior was banned away. It would make sense if it was, but...
Oh, no, I think Dan banned Mysterious's Warrior.
I'll find out.
I think the Druid might have been banned.
Okay, so Mysterious had his Warrior banned, confirmed. So that means he's left with the Priest, the Rogue, and the Druid.
The light protects me.
Depending on what Rogue Mysterious has, I think the Priest can do pretty well against it if it can get that early start. But, I mean, this game is just over, to be honest.
It's pretty close. I think this will definitely be a big turn for Dan to have to deal with. I don't even know if he can deal with this turn without wasting some of his resources that he probably would have wanted to save to complete the quest. And now, Dan is thinking, do I trade into the Youthful Brewmaster maybe, or do I just go face? He's going to make sure he gives himself every opportunity to go face, including if the rest of his minions get dealt with using Power of the Wild on the Galactic Crawler. And Dan knows absolutely no way to come back from that. And like you said, the Rock has just smashed the scissors.
Yeah, it's a very difficult matchup, to be honest, and Dan should be able to brush that one off and say, okay, just a bad cue for me, I can just move on and go into the next game. But it is 1-1. Mysterious will be feeling a little bit calmer now and less concerned about this matchup. So, of course, just what you queue next doesn't really matter. I mean, some will argue that it does, some will argue that it doesn't. We won't get
into that. If you're listening to
yeah.
Sotil, he'll tell you that it doesn't matter what you queue.
Yeah,
so.
a lot of people say that, and they have every right to say that as well. So Mysterious has Rogue and Priest left, Dan, Rogue, and Warrior. Now, we haven't seen the Warrior from Dan, and he did tell me earlier that he was going to be playing something exciting.
Exciting?
And at the moment, I've not really seen anything exciting, to be honest. Everything's been pretty default Dan.
Yeah,
so
I'm gonna say I wasn't overly excited by what I saw. I mean, I've seen the Dragon Priest, kind of maybe the Lyra variant as well. Not everybody's running the Lyra variant Dragon Priest.
This is true, yeah.
That was a Rogue quest deck.
I think I always get excited
though
when these players, like, as I said, Leroy said it before, probably Mysterious has probably said it before, like, oh, I'm playing something a little bit different, and they would have changed one card, and I'm like, oh, I was thinking it was going to be something crazy and memey.
So, it is the 2 quest rogues going up against each other, and I see with the Bilefin Tidehunter in Mysterious's deck, this could actually be that Oskaka version, although he is running backstabs, which Oskaka was not.
Nope.
So maybe it's some sort of somewhere in between. A lot of people are saying that the Bilefin Tidehunter is just insane value, obviously, because you get a taunt, 5/5 taunt from it, and a 5/5 off the back of it too.
I wouldn't be surprised if Dan has it in his deck as well, to be honest.
Yeah.
The bounce back effects, of course, are going to be very important. Completing that quest first always helps, but I have seen games where people come back, because if you can just build a nice and juicy board with just a ton of 1-2s and then you drop that quest down. Or you drop the completed quest down, sorry, should I say. And just have more value than your opponent, because they may have used all of their card draw to just get that quest done. So yes, you may be slightly behind on completing the quest, but you have more cards, you have more of a board presence.
So Dan has got double Shadow Step in hand. He can actually complete this quest next turn.
Yep, he has the Ferryman as well. So...
You just do it all this turn, right?
No, because then you can't play it next turn. Because... Oh no, yeah, you can. Because the engineer would still be 0. I don't think you need to do it this turn.
No, especially not in a rush, right?
You may even want to dagger up next turn, to be honest.
It's true. Let's see what Mysterious decides to go for here. He could play the Novice Engineer and Shadow Step back, but with the Igneous Elemental in hand and no other way to get the Novice Engineer back into hand, he might be tempted to try and play the Igneous Elemental, though the inclusion of the Youthful Brewmaster just picking up there, he's going to hold on to this, and that might force Dan to maybe bait the dagger out here, where you could just play another Novice Engineer and Patch's Pirate.
But I like daggering. Just taking away the Novice Engineer.
Because you haven't really got a huge board, and you don't have preparation, right?
I like just having a dagger equipped anyway,
yeah,
for when the deck hand comes out and you can get that extra 5/5 charge when you have completed the quest. But I guess when an opportunity like this presents itself in front of you, why not take it? You can say, all right, I can complete my quest by turn 4. Turn 5, I'm just going to jam it down, and then I'm going to start playing 5/5s. How quick are you to get there?
Exactly. Mysterious probably has that decision to make now. Could see Patches the Pirate come down to deal with this Novice Engineer. No, he won't, and that might now give Mysterious the opportunity to start bouncing things back. Although we haven't seen him yet get another bounce back at this point in time. There is the option for prep Mimic Pod, but maybe you want to save that prep for your quest, given that it might be a big edge in this particular mirror matchup.
Oh, for sure.
So many.
And the Igneous Elemental is always tempting because it is such a successful way to complete your quest. You don't even necessarily need much bounce back effects to do so, but
the problem is
killing it off.
Exactly.
Sometimes it just survives on the board and your opponent plays around it and says, well, it's not going to die because I'm not going to kill it.
Exactly. So you rely on your opponent actually killing Igneous Elemental to get you the potential to finish the quest. Remember, if Igneous Elemental dies, Mysterious should be able to complete the quest in one go, because he'll have 2 Flame Elementals, and then he'll have the Youthful Brewmaster and the Shadow Step, and that will get 4 out.
So Mysterious does have the option of backstabbing his own Elemental next turn.
Indeed.
But I mean, Dan just can complete the quest right here, right now, if he so chooses.
He can indeed.
I hope you like my invention.
It's about having somewhat of a board presence as well before that quest is completed, before you play that 5 mana. Otherwise, you're just skipping a turn, saying, okay, well, from turn 6, I'll start playing 5/5s.
So Dan would have to Shadow Step this to complete, and that looks like what he's going to do. He could then play it again, and then use Youthful Brewmaster, and then get another card draw.
I don't think he will play it because he doesn't want the Elemental to die. He doesn't want to kill it off. He doesn't want to allow Mysterious the chance.
I think Mysterious... I would backstab my own Elemental here.
Mysterious having the backstab and the double Shadow Step as well.
He can actually complete. And with coin and preparation, would he be able to complete the quest as well?
Well, this is the thing now for Mysterious. He can have so many 1/2s on the board and go pretty wide. And even if he doesn't complete it this one, he would complete it next turn. Dan needs to be able to deal with whatever comes onto the board, and he may not be able to.
Mysterious might have to dagger up this turn, though, so he won't be able to complete the quest. Because if I were Mysterious, I would be tempted to dagger up, because I want to deal with this 2-1, knowing that the quest is probably going to get completed next turn for Dan. And Dan is likely wanting to play Novice Engineer followed directly by quest, because he doesn't have the preparation in hand. So do you double Shadow Step dagger? That's the question.
I'm half tempted just for double Shadow Step and then
coin prep quest?
Yeah, you don't even need to coin prep, you just prep.
Yes, you do. Yes, you just prep. Yeah, sorry, my bad.
So you've got that coin next turn as well to... he is going to opt to dagger. Doesn't want these 1/2s to be removed off the board. And it will be Dan that will be allowed to complete the quests first.
A lot of decision making in this.
Well, this is the thing. There are a lot of viewers and a lot of players who say, Quest Rogue, oh, it's so easy to play, but actually it's really not. When it comes down to it, and especially in situations in tournaments, there are a lot of difficult decisions to make. I personally think it's one of the most difficult games to cast, because you've certainly got to calculate all the bounce back effects, and really, I just think everyone needs to play a lot of Quest Rogue to really understand it. I don't think we've found the optimal version of it. That's why we're seeing Ostkaka, for example, trying to change things out, putting the Stone Shapers in to try and give you a little bit of a defense against the aggro. But both quests have been completed now, but Mysterious does have the option to prep it out this turn, play that Crystal Core, and start challenging this board from Dan, and we get the game on of 5/5s. How many charge effects does Dan have in hand, though? He's got the deckhand, he's got the patches, he has 1 bounce back as well, so that's a possible 15 damage from hand.
Would he just need 1 more bounce back? Oh, Wisp off the double Wisp off the top is huge for Mysterious.
Wow.
This is a really close game here, because Dan would just need 1 extra bounce back effect, I think, to win. Prep a Mimic Pod to start, because there's nothing else that you use prep on in your hand right now. Yep,
you prep Mimic Pod this. So you've got the deckhand, you've got the patches, you have a bounce back, so you've got a potential 20 damage, 21 damage with your dagger, as you said. A Stone Tusk Boar, I think, would be lethal.
Yeah.
Double Wisp is
still good.
I mean, so perhaps now the option is damage control. You use the Wisp, you use the Glacial Shard, you start freezing, just get control and set up for a next turn lethal. Could even play the Engineer as well if you wanted to, just to search. I guess you could bounce back these the Glacial Shard, to be honest, if you want real control.
I wouldn't mind that at all.
I don't know. I don't know whether you want to keep that burst damage in hand. Perhaps you do. You want to keep the Brewmaster for the at least 15 from hand that you've got. There's a buff in Tidehunter as well.
I think this is a really tough board for Mysterious to deal with.
Dan more concerned about just clearing this board, and as you said, yeah, a very tough board. I mean, unless he gets something like a Vanish, then this looks like it might be 2-1 to Dan. Really needs a Vanish off the top, to be honest. That's not it. He can't even bounce that back because
he's going to have to trade it in. This is the problem. You can't really trade things back in.
He's still got patches. He's still got patches, I believe. So patches can trade into the taunt, and then you can put 5, 10, 15 damage to face. It's still not going to work out. So can he keep himself alive on board? Yes, he can. He can trade into 2 and just leave 20 on the board.
And then in his head, that potentially saves him from lethal.
Yeah, he's thinking, okay, well, at least I'm not dead on board. But we know Dan has that patches to finish the game off. Awkward now for Mysterious as well. I think you just have to bounce back and put everything on the board. Like, if you're in this situation, you know it's just damage control. You know you're just surviving, and you've probably lost anyway. But
this is a really tough matchup to play, the Rogue Quest matchup. It's difficult to know when to pull the trigger with your quest and when to... Because you don't want to commit too much to board at the low health values, because if you get your board cleared but then proc your quest, you have nothing to go with. You want to, on the same turn as using your quest, you want to generate a board that is hard to deal with.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there was a possible earlier turn for Mysterious to prep out that the quest, and then he could have had 2 5/5s on the board. And at the time, Dan hadn't actually used his quest, so he only had a 2-1 on board. Would have only been able to trade in with one of them. But in the end, it just seems like there was too much value from Dan in his hand. He had all of those charge effects, he had the patches, he had the deckhands, and now he goes 2-1 up in the series in the Quest Rogue matchup. And we were saying that there was a lot of opportunities for Mysterious to take down this Quest Rogue, but of course with the Warrior being banned, it means he doesn't get that chance with the aggro. Instead, he will just lose that one in the mirror.
And the...
Your eyes went like...
The Silence Priest can be a bit slow. Can be a little bit slow against the... you kind of need to get that Northshire Cleric turn going, you know, like we saw against Nest. That needs to kind of happen against the Quest Rogue with that Silence Priest. You need to be able to set something up with a humongous Razor Leaf and go for like a ridiculous Divine Spirit in a fire turn. So at the moment, all things looking Dan. And you can see Dan is smug because Dan is doing well. However, Dan has now got to win with his Warrior, and depending on what that Warrior is, we'll have to see. Because if it's the Quest Rogue versus the Warrior, often the Quest Rogue can get a bit of an advantage, because if they can get that quest out early, before the warrior hits that Ragnaros hero power, suddenly it's very difficult. Brawls come into massive effect, by the way, in this matchup. If you get those brawls on.
Do you think it's going to be Quest Warrior?
I don't know. It's difficult to say because last week all we saw was Quest Warrior, but now we've seen Mysterious bring a Pirate Warrior, and yes, there we go. There it is, Quest Warrior.
Dan said I was going to love his decks this week. I don't love his decks this week. Like, I'm impressed you're winning, but there's nothing that's really blown me away. I prefer when people blow me away with their decks.
You're just doing this on purpose now.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Will is just our product manager. Just looking over the screens at us, saying, "Please, can you stop talking about decks?"
Just agreeing with me, saying. Well, Mysterious, his final stab at getting to the finals of at Comic-Con later on this month.
Please, Mysterious.
Who's going to be joining Ben and Green Sheep down with the advantage? And I mean, if we go back to this rock, paper, scissors thing.
You guys are biased, right? You are all called Dan, so you all just voted for Dan.
You got to back the fellow Dans.
You Falcone, and obviously Dan, all backing Dan. Whereas me and Lorinda, we straight the boat out. Went for Mysterious.
So if we go back to the whole rock, paper, scissors analogy, which I think is a terrible one, by the way, but some people might disagree with me and say it's a good one.
Laying down the law, Dan Gaskin.
I mean, Quest Rogue loses this.
Do you think so?
Yeah, this is, if you want to... Well, or does it? I don't...
It's a really difficult one because I often think if you can
well, the rock, paper, scissors would suggest that Quest Rogue beats this, right?
I actually never...
Because Aggro Druid beats this, and then this supposedly beats the warrior, and then the warrior beats the druid. But in my playing experience, I have been absolutely obliterated by warriors when playing Quest Rogue because of brawls. Yeah,
brawls are a massive, massive card in this. And actually, Sleep with the Fishes, also a great card with the Whirlwinds, and the Ravaging Ghouls can also do some serious work. Executes are pretty powerful. And again, it also depends on how quickly you can get that quest churning for Mysterious. You know, if you were stuck then playing your quest on like turn 6, turn 7, suddenly you're slow, and you know what the Quest Warrior loves? He loves slow games.
I think this match is closer than people say. I mean, people would say that the Quest Rogue wins this, and of course they have every right to say that because it can just create a board of value, and you're constantly playing 5/5s that the Taunt Warrior or the Quest Warrior has to constantly deal with. Really, it depends on how this game is piloted. If Mysterious overcommits a board at any point that gets brawled into, that's where he loses. If he plays this safe, and he just maybe commits 3 minions at a time, he should be able to take this one and tie it up.
So Mysterious can play double Fire Imp and then Flame Imps, by the way. Or next turn he could play 3 Wisp, Shadow Step, Wisp, and complete the quest, and play the quest as well.
Flame Imps?
Where
are those?
The
Fireflies.
You know what I mean, Fireflies. They're all the same. 1 mana fire cards.
I love 1 mana fire cards.
I love 1 mana fire cards too.
There's one of the killers of the Quest Rogue. It is Dirty Rat. Sometimes you can pull a bounce back minion or a minion that has been bounced back and really punish your opponent.
Now, do you know what, mate? Mysterious is saying, watch my triple Wisp into Shadow Step Wisp into Quest Complete. Yeah. This is a triple Wisp, Shadow Step Wisp, Quest Complete.
This is pretty juicy. Who'd have thought 0 mana cards would be a thing? Yep, Quest is going to nicely complete. He has a Vanish if he ever wants to reset the board as well, if those Taunt minions get a little bit too threatening. But now this is where it gets difficult for the Quest Warrior. You have constant 5/5s to deal with. That's not something that the Quest Warrior can typically do easily. Yes, you've got your Ravaging Ghoul plus Sleep with the Fishes or whatever, but you need another Whirlwind in that effect as well.
And you can't actually do much with your Sleep with the Fishes here, apart from make trades awkward for Mysterious the following turn. Because you trade in, you Sleep with the Fishes, only one of them dies because Dirty Rat does the 2 damage necessary. And then you just make it kind of awkward for Mysterious to trade in the following turn. Looks like he's just going to play a 5 mana Taunt and then go face, but suddenly things are looking pretty good for Mysterious. Doesn't really want to Vanish though, because that basically accelerates the Warrior's quest completion. So
now, this is the position where I was saying that Mysterious needs to be careful, because if he overcommits here and just whacks everything on the board and then it's brawled, then he's not in as a comfortable a situation. Because the Fireflies will generate another 2 5/5s for him, you certainly could do it this turn. I don't know if it's necessary. You're already in an extremely comfortable position. Maybe just one Firefly here, I'd be okay with.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you don't need to go as wide as physically possible. Just need to make it awkward for Dan. Dan has played 5 taunts, I believe, now, by the way. So Stonehill Defender could actually get him to a completed quest next turn, depending on what he draws. And actually, completing the quest this early on is very good for this matchup. He's actually going to use the Vanish, and then basically, I guess, blow and like put a really big board down the following turn and say, I'm going to try and win in one go, I guess.
Well, I mean, he can just play the Wisps again.
Yeah.
Like, the Vanish is absolutely massive. Yes, okay, Dan can complete the quest because he's been given those taunts back, but he's always got to be worried about that lethal possibility coming through. Plenty of charge minions in the deck for Mysterious.
It also makes Brawl kind of funky, because it's a 1-mana minion you'd play and then you'd Brawl, which doesn't give you the best odds in the world. A lot of tools in Dan's hand should he have damage to actually deal with big 5/5s, but nothing to deal direct damage to these minions, so can't use Sleep with the Fishes, can't use his Executes. What do you do here as Dan? Do you just slam your 2 taunts, your Dragon Horn and your Shield Bearer, and say complete quest?
Your Dire Horn, yeah.
What did I say?
Dragon Horn.
I've taken that Wicker Spongle Dooble-Doob a little bit too far now.
Ow, I'm laughing so much it hurts. We might have an emergency here.
What have you done? You didn't even laugh that much.
Ow. Alright, hold on. Okay, we're back. Actually, was genuine pain there. I thought I might have to get an ambulance, but we're okay. No emergencies for you at home. I don't know, my heart hurt. I was worried.
Probably diaphragm pain.
Whilst that's happening, yeah. Oh, you're a doctor, aren't you? What was it? Ow!
Where's it hurting?
Here. Ow, it still really hurts.
That's like... Okay, that's like your pancreas that you're pointing to. It's not quite your spleen. Maybe diaphragm pain.
I am very sick at the moment. I have had a flu for like the past 4 days, but I didn't think this would happen. Anyway, let's stop me laughing. That's the way I stop having pain. So let's go serious Hearthstone. Now
We're always serious Hearthstone.
Firefly is gonna come down. I'm gonna make myself laugh again. But yes, okay, the quest has been completed by Dan, but there's a brawl.
The brawl.
Is this a big enough board to brawl, do you think?
Well, Mysterious has been very happily trying to play around Brawl by leaving some of these minions back, not expending all of his mana. Knowing that Brawl is one of the only major ways he ends up losing this. Dan has the option here to Sulfurous, Hero Power, and Execute. You know, potentially clearing up at least 2. Obviously, we know that Ragnar's Hero Power does sometimes like to troll.
Just sometimes. Do you take the 5 rather than using the Execute now?
What do you mean the 5?
As in just kill off the Wisp with the Sulfurous?
Yeah,
weapon?
maybe. And then what can you do to follow up, though?
Just Hero Power, take down a 5/5.
So Hero Power, Sulfurous, and then Hero Power again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems good.
But it's whether you want to take the 5. You know the amount of burst damage that is possible to come from the quest rogue, so...
Okay,
the Execute seems like the safer play.
Yeah, because this gets rid of more of the board, right? Or potentially, depending on Ragnar's Hero Power. Yeah, there we go.
And what's important is that 4 damage can go to face at some point as well. You have to win this game.
Igneous Elemental's a great draw, because even if Brawl comes down, it starts to generate more.
Just puts more into your hand than you used. Put more 5/5s. A second Brawl is what's going to be important here for Dan, I think.
You're walking a tightrope as Mysterious now at this point in time. You need to do enough on board to make the Ragnar's Hero Power feel inefficient and awkward, but you need to play little enough that Brawl doesn't become devastating. So you were walking a tightrope, and what Mysterious has done now is he's saying, I have got lethal next turn, I don't need to commit anymore. Dan has to deal with stuff. Obviously, I'm expecting Ragnar's Hero Power to do some work.
A second Brawl for Dan would be massive. If he can double Brawl, clear the board, and then he has the option of Primordial Drake plus Sleep with the Fishes.
That's the big turn for me.
Then that's when this could get slightly interesting.
Turn 10's the big turn, because Primordial Drake Sleep with the Fishes deals with everything.
How much does he want this to hit face here, or does he want this? Okay, I think taking the minion down is the important factor. But I guess if it hit face, he has the out of just that hero power hitting face a couple more times. Plus with the damage coming from his weapon as well. Do you hit face here?
If you hit face, no, I think this is fine. Now Mysterious has seen Brawl. There is an awkward situation where he might start committing everything to Brawl, thinking that he's seen at least one of his Brawls, and then that big turn 10 player, Primordial Drake and Sleep with the Fishes, comes through that deals with 5 mana, or with the 5 health cards. I'd like to see Mysterious still hold off some stuff. Yeah, he's basically playing, I'm going to put you on lethal every turn, you have to kind of respond to that. And he's keeping the charges in hand as well, which I really like, because I think he's waiting for bounce back mechanics for those.
Fireworks doesn't help too much. You want to put one of these taunts down.
You probably put the Direhorn down. I suppose it doesn't matter actually. No, you want to generate some armor. That's my bad. I thought Direhorn had 5 attack for a second.
So you know you're pretty much. Oh,
ooh, how bad is that?
That's very bad.
Is that bad enough to, if Mysterious picked up a bounce back, he could have lethal?
Yeah. Just about.
Ooh,
no,
almost,
not quite.
because you're going to get 4 armor from...
Yeah, you're going to get up to about 23.
Yeah, he'd need a little bit more than that.
There's a Vanish.
I don't think you want to Vanish right now.
But it's a bounce back effect, but...
not enough.
It's not quite enough.
This is actually now a tough turn, because Dan's follow-up turn is going to be that Primordial Drake and Sleep with the Fishes, which is going to be insane for him, because that cleans up everything. And then suddenly, Mysterious is staring down the barrel of, actually, I could die to this Ragnar's hero power over the next 2 turns.
Yeah, because you Primordial Drake plus Sleep with the Fishes, and then you put your 4 damage to face. Because then the next turn, you know you can put that 4 damage to face again, take him down to 6. And then if the hero power, the Die Insect does hit face, then that wins the game.
Oh man, Mysterious is thinking about it. He's seen things held on in Dan's hand for a long time. How much does he want to commit? This is a full board clear for Dan. No matter what Mysterious does, this is a full board clear for Dan next turn.
You can't get him down to 10 either, which would have been possible lethal because he has that Stone Tusk Spore plus Vanish. Any other charge minion would be enough for Mysterious next turn. Oh, no, it wouldn't, because the taunt's down, never mind.
Vanish,
actually, no,
though. Vanish.
Vanish first, though.
Yeah, it's true.
Here we go, then. This is becoming awkward for Mysterious.
That's not enough. That's not enough. Is he going to have to Vanish and then play everything?
I personally would Vanish and then maybe play the Flame Elementals. Keep this Stone Tusk Boar in my hand.
How worried are you about reducing the chances?
Yeah, that's true.
You need to be worried about... I think in any way, shape or form, I would Vanish because I want to get rid of this for it. But then how worried about you about another Sleep with the Fishes and the Drake? Because you've seen 1, there is the possibility of 2. Mysterious really held the trigger on this game because he was really trying to play around things like Brawl. Probably anticipated a Sleep with the Fishes play as well. Is there at any point in time where he had committed, he might have won the game? Difficult to say because we weren't really looking at it that way, but...
I don't think so. I think Mysterious has played it well, but Dan has just had the answers.
And Dan took some good selections from Stonehill defenders as well, knowing that getting the quest out as early as possible was a really good opportunity for him to push the issue. He's going to go face with this. This is kind of really the only option that he's got at this point in time. And a bounce back or charger off the top would be lethal for him if he can get through the taunt that comes down for Dan, depending on what gets hit as well. You want to hero power this turn, right, don't you?
So you hero power first. If it goes face, you win the game. Okay.
Does get rid of the charge, though, so not bad result. Well, this is really tough, because if he plays this and Mysterious gets a charger off the top and he plays it correctly, unless it's Stealthy Deckhand, because is it Stealthy Deckhand? No, yeah, he will. If he plays this, he gets lethal, right? If he gets a charger off the top of his deck.
Yeah, with backstab.
With backstab. Doesn't even need backstab, I don't think.
No, wouldn't need backstab. Mysterious searching. What can he find? Find anything with charge?
That's a charger.
Yes, he can. And just about with the skin of his teeth, and a Stone Tusk Boar. Mysterious is going to tie up this series 2-2. It looked like Dan had managed to worm his way out of a tricky situation, a very difficult matchup for the Quest Warrior. But Mysterious will take a deep sigh of relief there, to be honest, because it looked like he was down and out. But yeah, all he needed was one charge. What was out there? Did he have another deckhand left? Did he have patches he had
a deckhand left, I think. Might have had one deckhand left and one Stone Tusk Boar. So he literally had very few outs at that point in time. I have no idea what's going on with my hair, by the way. It's very difficult to control. Really need a haircut.
No, I almost like died mid-stream then. Sorry if you had to listen to my moans and groans. They weren't pleasant, unfortunately.
Speak for yourself.
You enjoyed them, did you? Don't make me laugh again, because actually it all really hurt. Might have to go to the doctors tomorrow. Anyway.
That's really solemn.
Really bad.
Really solemn.
Warrior left for Dan, of course, and the Priest now left for Mysterious. And this could be a long one. Mr. Kiernan, Scoundrel low. And this is it. Down to the wire. Winner will go to finals. We'll be joining Ben and Green Sheep. Loser goes home.
Regardless of predictions, this has been the series that I think the casters with their predictions would have hoped for. A close series between two great players. And I don't think anyone will feel salty, apart from the loser.
Well, I mean, well, yeah, the losing player certainly won't be happy about it. I don't think any of our predictions, or at least mine, like, I'm not wanting a player to get there over another.
No.
It's just who I believe is going to make it, or who I thought was going to make it. Of course, we have some fantastic players in the UK Hearthstone scene, and it will be great to catch up with whoever does make it. And even if players don't qualify, it would have been amazing if they had turned up as well. I don't know if tickets are still available for the event. They're probably sold out by now, but who knows?
Go and check.
Who knows?
Go and check. I'm sure production will confirm. This is I think this is a matchup that can go kind of either way. Remember, you can build a big minion, can very easily get dealt with by Execute or anything like that for Mysterious. But if Mysterious gets that big minion going and gets it early and there's no answers for Dan, suddenly it can get a bit sticky. There is an Ancient Watcher in hand with Silence, so you're going to see Mysterious coin out this Ancient Watcher early on here. Silence might come down with Radiant Elemental next turn and always has the backup of the Talon Priest further down the line too. This is a tough situation for Dan to deal with. Might actually even have to consider Dirty Ratting this turn just to build some sort of wall.
You're worried about Dirty Ratting, I guess, because you could pull something like a Razor Leaf. The Elemental was probably actually the best pull.
Yeah.
Because it means that this turn for Mysterious, I mean, it's basically the same thing, right? Instead, now he could heal up, whereas he wouldn't have been able to before. So he could actually attack in.
Heal up, yeah.
Yeah. So the best option for Mysterious from those draws there, because it means that he's still got the Talon Priests. And he's able to deal with the Dirty Rat very effectively. Heal up as well.
Plays around as Ravaging Oogle getting value, which I like. Could have been tempted to play the heal onto the Ancient Watcher there, but this makes the Ravaging Ghoul for Dan on turn 3 a little bit more awkward. But Dan has now got the follow-ups of Taunts on 4 and 5 too, so Dan's not going to be in an awful position. Do you just play the Ravaging Ghoul here, even if it's an Execute activator, do you just play it to contest board? What now? Force Mysterious to make, or have Cabal, or force a heal from him to contest?
I think you may have to.
Yeah.
As you said, you're relinquishing a possible Execute tool, a possible Sleep with the Fishes tool later on. It's a Purify as well. Like, this is Purify. Of course, playing Silence Priest, who'd have thought pulling the Silencers is good, but sometimes they do just sit in the bottom of your deck. But to be honest, it is a fairly consistent deck. I think a lot of people laughed about Silence Priest, and I mean, we can talk for days about how much people laughed about the card Purify. But here it is, with a possible chance of taking Mysterious to the final, to be honest.
Playing the long con game, Purify.
Now Dan can start churning out the taunts. I wonder if the damage has already been done, though.
Brawl next turn, remember. So if Mysterious commits, there is that Brawl turn, but it will be a Brawl on an empty board.
And this is the thing. If you Brawl and the 2-3 survives, then you're thinking, okay, great, yep, I can go on to win this game. But if suddenly you're leaving the 4-8 on board, that's when it gets scary.
Mysterious could be thinking here, does he trade his Radiant Elemental in to make it a worse Brawl? If I were him, I would maybe think about playing around him, as it might be the only way that I get sort of put behind in this game.
But then you make it a 5-5, right? And then it can just clear off the Ancient Watcher. I'd just kill it. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
That's what you meant.
Yeah,
I thought you meant just I thought you meant just trading the elemental, elemental and then just passing.
Oh, no, no, no,
Sorry,
yeah,
yeah, I'm with you.
This makes Brawl a little bit more awkward because it comes down to a 50-50 situation.
Well,
that's kind of undone it, but
yep.
regardless. Do you need to Brawl at this time? Is this a Brawl turn? Or you've got options on 5 now with Armorsmith and Direhorn Hatchling, and you've only got that 4-8 on board. That's the worrying thing for Dan. This might not even need it to be a Brawl turn.
It's how much respect you have for this priest. You've seen those 2 cards that are sat there. We can see that they're Talon Priests, but are you worried about them being a Divine Spirit and an Inner Fire? Exactly. Suddenly that's a 16-16 hitting you in the face.
And if you don't Brawl, you might end up losing.
So the Brawl will come through. If this is Acolyte, it'd be massive for Dan.
Oh, it's the 4-8.
The Razor Leaf.
Acolyte of Pain comes down, but there's no major follow-up. There's no huge punish at the moment from Mysterious. That's the best result you'd have to say. This could be just Cabal, Talon Priest, and heal something, your face or something.
Yeah, well, what you heal?
Whatever you heal. Heal his face for BM. No, I think that 2 damage will actually count, so don't do that.
Will. I'm sure Mysterious isn't considering healing his face.
No.
I'd like to think he's not, anyway.
I'd hope so.
Mysterious is one of the players that doesn't really go for the BM.
Sleep with the Fishes will kill off the Cabal Talon Priest if you play it with the Ravaging Ghoul, but it feels so bad to just waste that on a 3-4, but you're also dealing damage to the 4-11, which, you know, with a Divine Spirit Inner Fire would kill you next turn, so it's how much respect you're paying to all of that. And remember, Ali Armorsmith, if it plays and Mysterious actually finds lethal somewhere, he can use Potion of Madness, which would be very close to lethal regardless.
Dan needs an execute.
He does.
Plain and simple. If he wants to win this game, he needs to draw an execute. If he doesn't draw an execute, then this becomes very sticky.
I mean, if Mysterious draws Inner Fire next turn, okay, no, because it's the Direhorn Hatchling playing. Because if Mysterious draw Inner Fire next turn, he'd win. That's a great draw, by the way. Continue to put on pressure, and that's kind of what you want to do.
I don't think you need to silence it, though.
So
I think you can save it for later in case you do have a lethal opportunity.
Yeah, okay, see that.
You can just heal back up, keep this board presence.
You'd heal the 4-8, right? Because regardless to what happens to the 3-1, it's dead. I mean, it dies to Ravaging Ghoul, I suppose, but then you maybe don't predict the Sleep with the Fishes. I guess this is the way that it plays a little bit around Ravaging Ghoul, but you kind of want him to play Ravaging Ghoul because you've got Acolyte of Pain on board.
Ugh. Sticky for Dan. And are we looking at 2-time previous finalist Mysterious slowly edging his way to his 3rd Premiership final?
It's really...
Which would be astounding.
Potentially looking like it as well, because Ravaging Ghoul and Sleep with the Fishes, while it might seem good, it draws cards for Mysterious because of that Acolyte of Pain. That's why they're playing Acolyte of Pain. It kind of eliminates that potential, and it might be the only option for Dan at this point. He might have to play that.
The thing is, the Razor Leaf survives it as well.
Exactly.
Dan forced into awkward plays here to try and get this board down, to try and stabilize ever so slightly. But Mysterious can just boost that Razor Leaf back up, and there's a Shambler as well if he wants to.
It's pretty big.
Continue to put a little bit more pressure onto the board. But I guess, what good is a Taunt going to do against this warrior?
It's more about having the 4-8 on board that can, the 4-7 on board that can attack, though.
You wish to live forever.
He's actually going to do it this way. I was expecting him to play the Faceless Shambler. Now can draw cards with the Norshire Cleric, though, so that's a really, again, Mysterious loves top-decking excellent answers and excellent options as well. You trade here, though. You still want to make rules awkward. And Primordial Drake isn't even that fantastic here either.
No execute.
How far are we through the quest here for Dan? I think he might have played 3 or 4 taunts.
So Drake doesn't feel fantastic, but I guess it's a board presence that Mysterious may have to deal with. It is his 4th taunt played.
So Radiant Elemental comes down, right? And now you can start searching for something ridiculous with Shadow Visions. Because you've got Silence, so you can just silence the taunt. So if you get the right answers from Shadow Visions, you might actually be able to win the game.
Well, there's one.
There's one.
Now you need an Inner Fire as well.
There's Inner Fire.
Well, I believe that's just lethal.
Yeah,
You just heal up to a 4-8, you make it a 16 health, then you inner fire to make it 16.
Mysterious goes through.
And that is going to be exactly 20, I believe. So Dan, unfortunately, is going to fall at the last hurdle. Mysterious, the man who has been at Premiership finals twice in a row throughout Season 1 and 2, is going to return once again at Comic-Con later, and the cheer of joy comes through from him. He's battled through the losers bracket, and we'll be heading to the finals. An incredible comeback, really. Have 2-1 down, and you can have the pen, and you can have the bottle cap, as you are the victor of the predictions.
Not just me and Lorinda.
So Lorinda can have another bottle cap as well.
I will save this for you, Lorinda. This is the spoils of our predictions. A bottle cap that I gave Dan, and a pen that has got about half ink left. So I'm going to say
all of this really, I mean, comes down to that Stone Tusk Boar in that Rogue versus Warrior matchup. If that had been a dud draw, we could have been looking at a completely different finalist here.
We would have been looking at a completely different finalist. That would have just been it, right?
Yeah, it would have. So Dan, we could have been. Like,
Dan just looks salty. That's the saltiest face I've ever seen Dan have.
Don't think I'm salty. I'm happy. But to be fair, it's for the fact that Mysterious has made the final 3 times in a row is absolutely incredible. Like, I mean, that shows, and he always does it. Every time we count him out, he's like, I'll just make finals. It's not nice and easy, just breezes through. I learnt my lesson over 2 seasons, right? I counted Mysterious out, kind of. Like, not counted him out, but never really talked about him that much, because he was just kind of the player that was there. Never really did anything super flashy. But it's the consistency that Mysterious have. And it's this one guy that draws like a god. It's Mysterious. I think there's one player in Hearthstone Premiership that more times I've thought, what a bloody draw. And it's been Mysterious. The guy has been incredibly good at just getting the right cards at the right time, and sometimes that's all you need in Hearthstone. Oh yeah, against Ness for sure. He drew very well, but just that Stone Tusk Boar, unfortunately, was the nail in the coffin for Dan. Dan's going to... But commiserations to Dan, because it's his first season in the Premiership, and a top 6 is an incredible performance from him. You're going to go delete Stone Tusk Boar and disenchant it from your card collection now, I don't think you can you? I think it's just I think it's a standard, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, that is going to be the second series just about wrapped up, and we'll head on for some more series, actually. We're going to have games 3 and 4 coming in a little bit later. But first, we've got another giveaway, as we always do. We have more giveaways, and it's going to be the ASUS giveaway. It's going to be a copy of Forza, so thank you for ASUS I've just lost all my words, for providing that one. Incredibly thoughtful process. I've just got him giggling here, and it's just, honestly, I just can't even concentrate on anything. Thank you very much, ASUS, for providing that one. So if you want a copy of Forza Horizon, is it 3? Yeah, it is 3. You go to esl.pm/Forza. Not entirely sure what platform it is for, but I'm sure that they'll be able to sort you out for whichever platform you do want it on. That's just about wrap up that series. We'll move on to series number 3, which is going to be Hello Leroy versus Duncan. Have a lovely break. We'll see you in a few minutes. Oh, I'm crying.